Hello, dear classmates and dear tutor. My name is Diana Patricia Pinto. I am part of the group of Materials Designs for Face-to-Face Environments. This is going to be the initial activity or the first task. And for this presentation, I'm going to talk about two different questions. The first one is, what should English language learning ELT materials have? So for the first part, we have that the materials should have novelty, that are going to help to give motivation to the students. So you can use unusual topics, illustration, and activities to give novelty to our learners. Then we are going to have variety. So for example, in this case, we have breaking up the monotony of the unit routine with an expected activity. So here we can use different kind of activities and we can motivate our students. So the third one, is attractive presentation. So you can use attractive colors, you can use a lot of white spaces, or you can use photographs, you can use videos and things like that. For appealing content, you can use topics of interest of the learners. You can also use stories or local references, or I don't know, maybe music, art, cultural topics, things that the learners find interesting. Next, we have the achievable challenge. And for this, we can have tags which challenge the learners to think. So try to use activities that make them use their mind and their brain to learn the second language. Then we have what materials should have. Materials should expose our learners to language in authentic use. So they should use the language to practice and to communicate. Provide our learners with opportunity to use the target language to achieve communicative purposes. We have here achieve impact in the sense that they arouse and sustain the learners' curiosity and attention. Help learners to pay attention to features of authentic input. Provide opportunities for outcome feedback so they can learn from their mistakes and, or of course, to improve their knowledge. And stimulate intellectual, aesthetic, and emotional involvement. So what this material should have. For the second question, we have the proposal for principal approaches to the development of ELT materials. So this is like a quote: writers need to develop flexible frameworks. Okay, so remember that we have different kind of activities that we can use inside the classroom. There are 15 principles of language acquisition when developing material. The first one is to achieve impact. The learners have to be attracted with curiosity and attention. So as I told before, our material has to have variety and novelty to get impact in our learners. The second, the writers need to know as much as possible about the target learners. So we have to know our students and their learning styles. Then we have variety of topics, texts, and activities, so they can, we can motivate them and they can be very interested in the topic that they are going to learn. Then we have help learners to feel at ease. The less anxious the learner, the better language acquisition proceeds. Teacher must help the students to feel comfortable with all the materials in class and try to achieve personal contact with the learners. So if the learner gets frustrated, he's not going to learn. So that is very important to know. Okay, so then we have developed confidence. So build confidence through activities. Encourage learners to use and develop their existing extra-linguistic skills. Be creative, imaginative, and analytical. Then we have what is being should be perceived by learners as relevant and useful, what the target learners are interested in, and what they really want to learn the language for. They want to learn it for communication, they want to learn it because they need it, they want to learn it because they want to be teachers. So we have to identify that. This can be achieved by relating teaching points to interesting and challenging classroom tasks. So that depends on the activity that we are going to choose for this kind of students. And discover the learner needs. Every single learner is different and have different goals. So the teacher has to identify that. Okay, so next we have require and facilitate learner self-investment. Activities that require the learners to make discoveries for themselves. So we have to make them think, not to give all the tools. They have to think through the activities. Giving them responsibility for making decisions about activities or tests they can use and how they use them. Okay, so it's very important how they use, and they need to know how to use the activities or the tools that we are going to give them in class. Ready to acquire the points being taught. Materials should help to focus the learner's attention on features of target language. That is what is very important to have in mind when we are going to create a material. So material should focus in the attention of the features. Remember that not all learners are ready and willing to learn. Some learners are not or have not the same learning styles, so we have to identify that. And if the learner or the student is not willing to learn, we have to motivate it, or we have to use a different technique. Okay, we have expose the learner to language in authentic use. Learning needs experience of how the language is typically used. You can use speaking activities, you can use listening activities to progress in this. Learners need to notice how language is used and use it for communication purposes. The final goal for our language is to communicate. So the learners need to know that this is the end and the goal of learning a second language, to communicate. Present materials to all levels to provide frequency exposure to the language. So remember that the levels are very important because all the students have different levels, and you have to know which level is the one that is going to fix with each student. The learner's attention should be drawn to linguistic feature in the input. The attention could be either conscious or unconscious. So one student can learn consciously and another subconsciously. Learners become aware of a gap between a particular feature of their interlanguage. So this is very important to understand because the students need to get attention and to get attention to the linguistic feature in the input. Then we have opportunities to use the target language. Opportunities to use it for communication rather than just practice with the materials. So it is very important just not to practice with the material, books, texts, stories, among others, but to practice in speaking, because at the end the goal of the language is to communicate in English or the second language. Create communicative interaction between learners, so make them to communicate between them so they can practice the speaking. You can use writing, creating activities, speaking activities, etc. Take into account the positive effects of instructions are usually delayed. Not all the students learn at the same speed. Learners cannot be expected to learn a new topic and be able to use it in the same lesson. So that's going to take a process, and each student is different. Never force the learners into premature production of the instructed features, because all the learners, as I told you before, are different. Okay, we have take into account that learners differ in different styles. We have the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, stylical, experimental, analytic, global, dependent, and independent. These are the different kind of learning styles that we can find in each student, and we have to know the difference among them. Take into account the learners' are effective attitude. Motivation and positive feeling toward the target language. This is very important because if our students are not motivated, they are not going to learn. Diversity language instructions. Diversify language instructions as much as possible based upon the variety of cognitive styles. So we have to create different kind of material for the different cognitive styles. Okay. Then we have permit a silent period at the beginning of instruction. Wait until the learner has gained sufficient confidence. We have to respect the student. We cannot force him or force her to participate or speak. Every single student has a different process of learning style. This can help to internalize grammar. The silent period is very important because of that. Create activities to require comprehension but not production. So at the beginning, they have to learn more or specialize more grammar than speaking until they get confidence in themselves. Maximize learning potential by encouraging intellectual, aesthetic, and emotional involvement. The content of the material cannot be trivial or banal. It has to be meaning. Try to maximize the brain's capacity during language learning. So we have to try to explode as much as we can the student's brain. Now we have the last two. Materials should not rely too much or control practice. Control practice appears to have little long-term effect on the accuracy with which new structures are performed. This is a quote of Elise. By the other hand, we have, yet, controlled grammar practice activities still very popular and are considered to be useful by many teachers and many learners. So this is quite controversial subject and topic. Provide opportunities for outcome feedback. Language production activities intended to outcomes other than just participate in language. So we have to give opportunity. We have to give us opportunity to feedback our students because that is going to help them to improve their knowledge. Feedback must focus on the effectiveness of the outcome rather than just on the accuracy of the output. So this is very important to understand, classmates and tutor, because if we are not going to motivate in a correct way our students, and if we are not going to make a good feedback, then our student can get frustrated and then they are not going to learn. So this is very important to give a positive feedback. Okay, so that's everything for now. Thank you for your attention and God bless you. Thank you so much.